Hello all my underdogs and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be asking and answering the question, what are the top 15 redemptions on RuPaul's Drag Race? People can get a redemption on RuPaul's Drag Race for many different reasons, whether it's a character redemption, placement redemption further along in the competition, or just a show of growth in between two different seasons. There are many ways that a queen on RuPaul's Drag Race can be redeemed in some aspect, get a redemption arc, get that story, and get that satisfying conclusion. So today we are going to be ranking the top redemptions in RuPaul's Drag Race history, talking about the different kinds of redemptions, and analyzing what makes a good redemption arc. This video is directly inspired by the channel Animal. He recently did a video asking this question about seasons of Big Brother, asking about the redemptions on that show. So if you enjoy Big Brother, want to get into Big Brother, like looking at content about Big Brother, go watch his channel. He makes great content. Before we dive any further into this video though, please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy it. Only about 30% of my viewers are subscribed, so if we could all subscribe, it would make the world a better place. And by the world, I mean my world. It would make it better. But let us move on here. After going through all of the Drag Race seasons and contestants and everything, I landed on a top 10 redemptions that I feel like are really solid, make a lot of sense, really drive home the point of what I feel like a good redemption on Drag Race can be. And I also have 5 honorable mentions that did not make that top 10, which we are going to be going over in no particular order. The first redemption arc we're going to be talking about is the redemption arc of a lovely, lovely contestant. If you've seen some of my other videos, you would know one of my favorite Drag Race contestants of all time. From seasons 10, All Stars 4, and UK vs. the World, we have Mohart. Now, on season 10, Mohart was known as being a lovely character, as somebody who was great at giving the confessionals, really, shone with her personality, but just wasn't there in the competition aspect of it. She did do well in some of the challenges on season 10, but not to the level that she was able to really make an impact due to her, abilities in that regard on her season. And then she's able to come back for All Stars 4, and she's really able to get the competition redemption that we needed to see from her, where she was able to show us, like, she can perform, she can act, she can do all of these different things and excel at them on Drag Race. And then UK vs. the World is kind of a victory lap for her, where she's really able to, like, solidify what we learned about her in All Stars 4. I don't really feel like we learn anything new about her. Like, we don't, like, unlock a new skill, so to say. But, the most satisfying of things tend to come in threes. Like, three-way symmetries tends to be better than two-way symmetry. Trilogies are more famous than duologies. I feel like it really just completes the trilogy of Mohart's time on Drag Race, of just solidifying what we already knew and showing that, yeah, she is a star. I love Mohart. Mohart is, again, one of my favorite Drag Race contestants of all time. The only reason she's not on the actual list is because there's only one of the aspects she really gets redeemed for. Like, through her charisma on season 10, I feel like we already knew that she was a star. She just hadn't been able to show that in the challenges yet. And she was able to do that over the course of the next few seasons. And while I do think it can be advantageous, thinking of a redemption arc, to have multiple seasons to go through, it can also be more impactful to have the redemption arc happen within the span of a single season as well. And just due to feeling like it has a bit of a lesser impact than the other ones that are in the top 10, that's why it's considered an honorable mention for me. Next up, a pretty shining example of what I just talked about it also being impactful in a single season. From Drag Race Down Under Season 2, we have Queen Kong. Now, we only get to see her on like 8 episodes of Drag Race, but I feel like this redemption arc is so solid. I mean, literally, in the first 2 episodes, she's low, then in the bottom 2. And she came in as this big name. She came in, I had heard of 2 queens prior to Drag Race Down Under Season 2. I had heard of Spanky Jackson and Queen Kong. I'd heard of both of them. And we got to see this immediate redemption for Spanky, where she's in the bottom 2 in episode 1, but then wins episode 2. But for Queen Kong, she's in the bottom of the first 2 episodes in a row. And it's like, oh my god, Queen Kong it doesn't feel like she's living up to the expectations, but then we get further into the season, and then we see in the final 6 episodes, she's with Spanky and Hanaconda in the Girl Groups Challenge, and she fucking slays it. She's the best in the challenge, and she gets the win. And then 2 episodes later, at the top 4, she gets another challenge win for this makeover that we see here. Like, she really, over the course of this season, episodes 1 and 2, we see her start off at such a high of being such a notable name and then fall immediately. And we're unaware if she's going to get back up, and then she does, and she wins 2 challenges and makes it to the final 3, and is a solid competitor who has a genuine chance of winning the season. Like, she really fucking slays this shit, I feel like. The only reason she isn't higher is because I feel like there are people with similar trajectories that have lower lows and higher highs that feel a bit more, like, satisfying to a redemption arc as a whole. Hers is obviously still very great, but I think of all the ones of a similar style that we're going to be talking about, hers feels one of the least fleshed out. Somebody who's here in the honorable mentions for basically the exact same reasons as Queen Kong is from Drag Race France Season 2, Cookie Cunty. Now, Cookie Cunty really has the exact same situation going on as a Queen Kong, where she's going into the season as one of the most notable names on the cast, and then in episodes 2 and 3 is lip-syncing for her life. And you're like, oh my god, Cookie Cunty isn't serving it like I thought. What is happening? But then she's able to redeem herself and win the ball challenge, and it really caps off her storyline in a great way. This version of it simultaneously has lower lows than Queen Kong's, but also not as high of a high, so it is a slightly different but similar situation where we got the same range of like the low to high, it's just like slightly shifted a bit. But because of the similar reasons, she doesn't make the top 10 for me, but again, a very solid redemption arc here for Cookie Cunty. Rounding out our trio of contestants who came in with high expectations, initially did not excel, but then really excelled later on in the season, we have from Drag Race Philippines Season 1, Zilhouette. Now, Zilhouette, same reasons as Cookie Cunty and Queen Kong for being in this honorable mentions tier. Starts off with a low, safe bottom 2 in the first 3 episodes, I believe, and then ends up, being tied for the most challenge wins of the season, which, I mean, granted was 2 challenge wins, but you know what I mean. Really fucking excels later on in the season, and really starts excelling with the snatch game. To me, Zilhouette's feels a bit more impactful than the ones before it, because I feel like, we get this storyline of, like, Zilhouette is, like, the mother of multiple of these contestants. Like, she has had personal impacts on a lot of the people there. And so when she struggles, you feel it a bit more, and when she succeeds, you also feel it a bit more. And also, she's in the top for the back half of the episodes longer than anybody else is. Yeah, she does lip sync again at the very end, but she has like 4 or 5 episodes in a row where she's in the top in some way. So I feel like those 2 points combined make it feel a bit higher impact to me. Last but not least for our honorable mentions section, we have somebody whose highs and lows on the season definitely felt less than other contestants we've talked about beforehand, but partially due to the fan reception of them, and also the amount of people that they had to cut through to get to where they ended up getting, it feels just as impactful. And that is Fontana from Drag Race Sweden Season 1. Now, Fontana, throughout the season, I mean, I think her track record, if I'm remembering this correctly, was safe, safe, low, safe, bottom 2, win, safe, and then the finale. So, like, literally, it's like 4 safes, and then a win, and then a low, and a bottom 2. Like, it's not a lot that goes on. I mean, there's only 9 people on her season. Like, there's not a lot to, like, go through, you know what I mean? But she has to cut through these people at the beginning who are really succeeding. She has to cut through I'm a Queen, Santana, Vanity, Elektra. She has to cut through all 4 of them to be able to get to the finale and get to the top 2 of the season. And she was one of the people, starting out the season that people were really interested in, and people were like, oh my god, I love Fontana. I want Fontana to make it to the end. And by episode 5, you're like, Fontana's, like, not making it to the end, I don't think. But then she wins the next challenge, and she's genuinely able to make it there and get to the final 2, having done a pretty damn good job throughout the season as a whole, despite her placements, and really providing almost a bit of an upset, I would say. Not really an upset, because I feel like an upset implies that, like, she was, like, really doing a bad job throughout the beginning of the season, and she wasn't doing a bad job. But in comparison to the track records of people who were eliminated before her, you just wouldn't be inclined to expect her to make it there. And so the fact that she does, and it feels right, and it feels complete, it feels really satisfying that it's what overall ended up happening. Okay, starting off our top 10 proper. These are the 10 that I've ranked, that I've decided. These are the 10 that are like the redemption arcs across Drag Race. Starting off at number 10, we have from season 8 and All Stars 4 of Drag Race, we have Naomi Smalls. Now, Naomi Smalls, starting off season 8 of Drag Race. Now, YouTuber JackFed has made a video essentially talking about this very topic, being Naomi Smalls' redemption arc on season 8 of Drag Race, which you can watch if you choose. I'll put it up in the iCard if I remember to. It's a great video. But just to like deep dive through this, Naomi Smalls starting off on season 8 really doesn't start off on 100% the correct foot, is low for the first challenge, and throughout the first like 4 episodes, it's like low, safe, gets a high in episode 4, and then in episode 5, she bombs the Snatch Game and is in the bottom 2. And she's going up against Acid Betty, who up to that point had 3 high placements and a safe. And so just initially looking at those track records, you're like, okay, Acid's gonna stay here. But then Naomi Smalls turns the fuck out of the lip sync. And they make the call where they could have reasonably edited around Naomi and said, you know, let's send home Naomi, let's keep Acid in for the drama. They decided, no, let's keep Naomi Smalls. And they do that. And then she goes on to win the next challenge immediately after that and never escapes the top throughout the rest of the season. She is put in the bottom, a fire is lit under her ass, and she goes through it and she does it and she succeeds, and it's amazing. And then we get to see her on All Stars 4, and we really just kind of get reaffirmed in that sense of like how much of an icon Naomi Smalls is. She doesn't do as good of a job as some of the other people in her season, just in terms of placements during All Stars 4. But regardless of the placements, she solidifies that she is a sickening fucking drag queen and does good in so many different challenges, including the Snatch Game that she failed on the first time. She wins the makeover again. And she does good in other challenges like the girl groups and the talent show. She really reaffirms her skills and shows like, yeah, I deserve to make the finale on season 8. If anybody had doubted me due to my redemption, they should not have doubted me, because she made the finale on both of her seasons that she was on. Naomi's redemption arc that we see specifically on season 8 is the earliest redemption arc that's in this video, and I really feel like it establishes a format and a way that a redemption arc can happen on Drag Race, and we're just gonna kind of see it blossom into the future for all these different contestants. Next up, we have somebody who really has a very similar redemption arc, specifically to Naomi's redemption arc just in season 8, not including All Stars 4, just the season 8 arc. It's a very similar redemption arc, but their season is longer, so we see it play out more, and once we get to the end of the season and see them make the finale, it almost, in a way to me, feels a bit more satisfying because we had to wait longer for it, and we got to see the rise happen more gradually. And the contestant I'm talking about is Crystal Method from Drag Race Season 12. Now, Crystal, in the early portions of the season, I mean, literally is like low in the first actual episode with an elimination. Then we see her be safe a couple times, then is low again. And you're just like, oh my god, Crystal, even though she really is a character, we see that, like, she is a wonderful television personality. We just don't see her excel during the season at the beginning parts, and you're just like, oh no, Crystal, what's gonna happen? And then her kind of moment of clarity more so is her getting the chance to, in the Rusical, take a bit of the reins of the character and, you know, provide some direction and really feel like she's in the zone, really get a character and a role and a goal in this challenge that she vibes with. And when she gets something that she can vibe with and that she can do for herself, it really feels like she's able to succeed and blossom in this season. We see her high for the Rusical, and then we see her continue to be placed high for the commercial challenge afterwards, for the political challenge after that, for the makeover after that. She's high for all of them in a row. And in comparison to the beginning of the season where we got a few safes and a couple of lows, you're just like, oh my god, Crystal Method really coming through here and like serving it to the people. Very few people throughout Drag Race history have had 5 top placements in a row during a season, and Crystal is one of them. And we get to see this arc really develop, and she is finally at the stand-up challenge able to win. And then she's in the bottom 2 the next episode, which kind of feels shitty in a sense. I don't think it really diminishes her arc in my eyes, because that episode was really judged on like performance throughout the season. And despite the fact that she had this redemption arc, Crystal did have the second worst track record out of the top 5, so it kind of just happened to be that way. So it doesn't really feel like it diminishes her rise for me personally. And she's able to get to the final 3 of the season. And even though she only has 1 win and the other 2 contestants in the top 3 have 3 and 4 wins respectively, I still personally felt like if Crystal wins this season, I wouldn't be that mad. like she really showed out as a character the whole time and was really able to blossom into herself in the way that she fits in on Drag Race at the very end. And I thought it was beautiful. It really, again, just kind of felt like a more extended version of Naomi Smalls' season 8 story arc, which I really enjoy. So that's why Crystal is here at number 9. At number 8 here, continuing in a similar arc, a 1 season long arc of starting at the bottom, rising to the top. But I feel like this version of it having more stakes and having more drama associated with it that brings more like satisfaction to the end result. We have from Drag Race Canada season 3, Miss Fiercelicious. Now, I love Miss Fiercelicious. Who doesn't love Miss Fiercelicious? I don't trust you if you don't like Miss Fiercelicious. But literally in episodes 1, 2, and 3, we have this very similar track record to Zilla had, where we're like low, safe, bottom 2. Those are the first 3 episodes for Miss Fiercelicious. And in terms of the competition, you're like, oh no, Fiercelicious isn't bringing it as much as I wish. But she is bringing the drama every single episode. We literally, at the top of episode, I think 5, get a montage of Miss Fiercelicious moments. Because she is the story of the season. She is the bloodline. She is the drama. She is the blood pumping through the season. And then at the top 7 and top 5 episodes, she's able to win both of those challenges. And she enters the finale, despite the first 3 episodes, it's seeming that Miss Fiercelicious wasn't going to make it far in the season. She enters the finale with, I think, the best track record. Like, she really rises to the top. She really gets there. In comparison to Crystal and Naomi, they enter the finale not with the best track records, the worst, actually, in their respective seasons. But Miss Fiercelicious enters it with the highest, and you really get the started from the bottom, rise to the top, with the main character energy drama along the way. And it does slightly get undercut by the fact that she doesn't make it to the final 2 lip sync of the season, but it almost actually adds fuel to the fire in a sense as well, where it's like, oh damn, Fiercelicious doesn't even make the final lip sync, and you're just like, what was the redemption arc for? But it really almost harkens back to what we see at the beginning of the season, where she's like, oh, this is sabotage, this is sabotage. You're like, oh my god, Fiercelicious was sabotaged. While I think a more satisfying conclusion would obviously be Fiercelicious winning the season, I think the second best conclusion after her winning the season is being cut at the top 4, where you're like, oh, they did her dirty. She was sabotaged. She's talking about sabotage the whole season, and now she's been sabotaged. That is insane. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. The redemption arc on point. Chef's kiss. Moving on. At number 7, we have our first multi-season arc here in the actual proper top 10 rankings. I assume as soon as you saw the concept for this video, there was a few names that came to mind, and here's our first one of those names. And from Drag Race Season 6 and All-Star 6, we have Trinity K Bon. Now, Trinity on Season 6, we saw as being an amazing lip-sync performer, really showing it and turning it out, but not being as confident as she needs to be in order to succeed on Drag Race. We get a moment in Season 6 where she says, like, I am the Beyonce of drag. And then we get to All-Star 6, and she enters in, and she starts off on the wrong foot. She's in the bottom 2 episode 1. You're like, oh, fuck, Trinity. But then she wins episode 3, and in episode 4 literally plays Beyonce and is in the top. All of the challenges that she was in the bottom for on season 6, she is either high or wins in All-Star 6. She shows that she has completely redeemed herself in terms of the challenges aspect of Drag Race. And she feels more confident in herself than we see her originally. And shows us that, like, yeah, I am that bitch. I've always wanted to be that bitch and knew in some aspects I was that bitch. But now I know I am fully, wholly, wholeheartedly, completely that bitch. And we get it over the course of 2 seasons. And it feels like a perfect timeline. Not a perfect timeline, because we do not see her make the finale on All Stars 6. But in terms of redeeming her as a character and as like a talented, amazing drag queen from season 6 to All Star 6, that arc of, I guess, like first episode season 6 to the Show Up Queen challenge on All Star 6 is an amazing, amazing, amazing arc that really, really is just so juicy and amazing and perfect. And I really hope she ends up getting the Mohart treatment, where we get to see her on, Versus the World season of Global All-Stars, where she's able to complete the trilogy and is able to reaffirm her successes. Next up, we have somebody who I feel like almost has the most unique track record and way that they've ended up on this list here. But it is almost less about the track record with this person and almost more about the feeling and the reasons for why they're on Drag Race, why they're such an icon, and just the character and personality of her being shown through the multiple seasons that she was on, really showing up and showing out why she is amazing. So from Drag Race UK Season 3 and Canada vs. the World, we have Miss Vanity Milan. Now, Vanity Milan starts off on UK Season 3, being in the bottom 2 in episodes 2 and 3. And we see immediately that she is an amazing lip syncer, but she is just not able to get into it as much with, the acting challenges and, the design challenges and other things for Drag Race that she needs to be doing. And despite the fact that she is in the bottom 2 in episodes 2 and 3, she's able to get through the season. In episode 4, she is able to win the challenge with the girl groups. And she's able to make it through up until the final 4, having to lip sync at the final 5 and final 4, but showing up and showing out at both of those lip syncs as well. And showing like, yeah, I'm a great lip syncer. I know that. I can obviously show you that. But her redemption arc really does not start until we get to Canada vs. the World. Now, we get to see this arc throughout both of her seasons, where on UK Season 3, Vanity Milan is the only black contestant on the entirety of the season. And we see that, it's obviously very obvious, and we get a little bit of talk about that, of feeling like, this extra pressure to represent. But it really continues on Canada vs. the World, where she is cast with Silky N Ganache and Raja O'Hara, where she's like, I'm so happy that I get to do Drag Race with other queens of color, with other black queens. And you two are some of the queens that really inspired me in my drag and really encouraged me to go for it with my drag. And the fact that I'm on the season with you all and able to represent for the black queens out there is a really touching and inspiring moment that we get to see from her. And then in the first episode, in another girl groups challenge, she wins the episode. And we get to see her reaffirming her girl group challenge prowess and winning the first challenge of the season, starting off as the front runner. And while it doesn't continue throughout the rest of the season, where she ends up being eliminated in 5th place right before the finale, we see her do very well in the Snatch Game, which she did fine at the first time, but she did much better the second time, and we're just like, hell yeah, love that for her. And she does better in the ball challenge as well. Even though she is in the low placement for the challenge, it's still not the bottom 2 that she received the first time. And just overall, her looks were much better. So we get to see Vanity be like, yeah, I've learned in the past year since my season, and I know more about myself, and I feel more confident in myself. And the story arc of her feeling almost isolated with the weight of having to represent a community upon her shoulders, and the feeling of that for her being lifted off, and the love that she receives on Canada versus the world, just makes the storyline so much more satisfying, and makes the redemption arc, in a way, much more redeeming. Now, I said Vanity Milan's redemption arc was one of the more unique ones on this list, and I do mean that, mostly in part due to the story and the reasonings and all of that. But in terms of the actual placements, the next contestant we're going to be talking about has a very similar track record in that sense to Vanity Milan's. And from Drag Race Season 9 and All Stars 3, we have OHara. Now, while OHara does not make the finale on the first season that she is on, we really have a similar feeling that we get from OHara as we do from Vanity, of somebody who can absolutely turn it out in a lip sync any day of the week, but that struggles in aspects when it comes to like constructing the looks and performing in an acting challenge and these other things. And she returns very soon afterwards onto All Stars 3, and episode 1 slays the fucking challenge and kills it. She really fucking murders it. And while she doesn't technically win the episode because Bendela wins it, like, it really still feels just as satisfying. And as we go on, we get more episodes of OHara excelling in the Snatch Game. OHara was originally safe for the Snatch Game. Now she's high for it because she fucking kills it as Crystal LaBeija. And we get to see OHara really show up and show out in these different challenges that she didn't do as well at originally. I think the reason this holds slightly more impact in terms of like a pure redemption arc for OHara than for Vanity is because the way that OHara ended up being eliminated just felt so unjust. And in a way, because it felt unjust, the redemption almost means more. Like, we don't see her really organically fail later into the season if she were to do that. Like, for Vanity Milan, she had been in the bottom for a couple of episodes pretty justly, and was eliminated with the worst track record out of the bottom two. And it felt very fair. And while she was redeemed, it, you know, ended off on a way that you're like, yeah, Vanity does deserve to go home here, sadly. Whereas with OHara, she's really shot in the foot by somebody who was greatly benefited by her, and she really didn't even deserve the bottom anyway. Like, she gets kind of double screwed, and so the redemption arc almost stays more properly intact, because you're like, wait, the fuck? She shouldn't have gone home. And so she almost ends off in the sense where you're like, yeah, OHara could have made the finale. Would OHara made the finale? Who knows? But like, the fact that she is kind of cut off at the knees earlier than she should have, it almost keeps the redemption arc more intact because it feels like she could have done more and that she had done a better job. What also helps for OHara is we get to see her be a lip sync assassin on All Stars 8 after she's transitioned and has really gone through a journey with her drag, and we see this new and improved OHara where we only see her for a few minutes, but you just feel this sense of like, oh, I got this. I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. I am OHara, and I am that bitch. And that's the first time we got to see it from her on TV in such a long time. And so it just feels so right. And I think all those aspects combined make me feel like she has to be here at number 5. Here at number 4, this contestant is definitely benefited due to the fact that their redemption arc took place over a much longer period of time than anybody else's on this list by far. From seasons 2 and All-Star 6 of Drag Race, we have Kylie, Sonique, Love. Now, I did mention that Naomi Smalls' redemption arc was the earlier regarding of like a pure redemption arc, but I said that because we really don't see Kylie's redemption arc happen in her single season. We see it across both. Now, Kylie Sonique Love on season 2 of Drag Race had not come out yet as trans. I mean, did come out as trans during the reunion episode, but during the filming of the season had not yet come out as trans. And throughout the season, I mean, the 4 episodes she's in, she's got 2 safe solo and is eliminated. Like, that's it. That's what we get to see from her. And she kind of ends up as one of these, you know, early season eliminations where, like, she kills it in the lip sync she goes home in, but that's kind of all we got to really see from her. We didn't get to see much. But then after she transitions and is able to, like, come into her own, we get to see Kylie Sonique Love back on our screens from All Star 6. And she shows that she can excel in any aspect of Drag Race that is thrown at her. And I mean, she kills the Snatch Game, which she was originally eliminated on. She kills all of these different challenges throughout the season. She does great in an acting challenge. She does great in girl groups. She does great in a ball. She does great in all of these challenges, all of these different aspects of drag and Drag Race that she has to compete in. And it feels so gratifying because we get to see it happen throughout such a long period of time. I mean, granted, it's like on 2 seasons. It's not through as many seasons, as many like chapters. We get to see 2 very different versions of her. But the fact that we do get to see 2 very different versions of Kylie is almost why it's more satisfying, because it almost feels like a completely different person is doing this on All Star 6 than we get to see on season 2 of Drag Race. And also due to the fact that Kylie ends up winning All Star 6, but we get to see the whole, and I don't want to be like an obnoxious like metaphor toting dickhead, but like the caterpillar to butterfly evolution of Kylie Sonique Love throughout both of her seasons. And because we get to see the whole life cycle, you know, really the episodes on season 2 where she just doesn't perform as well and isn't able to get her footing, and then on All Star 6 is able to win the season and show off and show out in all these different areas. The fact that she gets the win at the end really solidifies her for me as being high up in this top 10. Next up, somebody who I think you all definitely thought would be put on this list for sure. Another contestant from All Star 6, also from Drag Race Season 11 and Canada vs. the World. We have Miss Silky N Ganache. Now, Silky N Ganache on season 11 was painted as a villain. She was painted as a villain by the edit. I don't feel like that's a mean thing to say. I really think it's just a fact of the matter at this point. And she wins a couple of challenges throughout the season, but really the storyline of Silky throughout the season on season 11 is like someone who is overconfident in themselves, and while she does have skills and talents that she's able to show, and she does make it to the final 4, the character of Silky N Ganache is just torn down throughout the whole situation. And she gets to the finale, and people are questioning the reasonings of her getting to the finale the whole time. And it's just a sad situation for her. And she comes back on All Star 6, and she's eliminated episode 3, and you're just like, ah, damn. Silky wasn't able to show up and show out, and wasn't able to, like, get the redemption arc that she needed until we get to the lip sync SmackDown, where the one thing that people kept ragging on about Silky N Ganache prior to this was her not being good at lip syncing. Lip syncing, she fucked up no scrubs. She fucked up no scrubs. Da ba da ba da ba. She's able to come in on this lip sync SmackDown and beat, I think, 7 different people in the lip syncs. I think it's 7, and that is absolutely fucking bananas that she's able to do that. Like, she literally beats 7 individual people, some of whom are amazing lip syncers, able to fucking murder them, and only ends up losing at the very end due to a wardrobe malfunction. Where it's like, if she didn't have that wardrobe malfunction, she probably could have won. She probably could have entered her way back in. It's insane. Even though we really don't get to see a challenge redemption for Silky on All Star 6, we really only get to see a character redemption and a lip sync redemption for her. The fact of the matter is that the lip sync redemption is one of the most iconic and, I think, important episodes in Drag Race history, where it encapsulates the concept of a redemption arc for somebody so fucking well. The fact that it happens over the course of a single episode of television is just amazing. And then we get to see her on Canada vs. the World, where we get to see the Silky N Ganache that's amazing at lip syncs, more defined in her character, and able to excel at challenges, really blossom, and she makes it to the top 2 of the season. And even though she doesn't win, it still feels like the very complete version of the trilogy, where we're adding up, the hints and sprinkles that we've seen throughout her first 2 seasons, along with the dominant factors also in those seasons, and combining it all into the, mega Silky that we see on Canada versus the World, where she does a good job in basically every challenge. The only challenge she doesn't do, I feel like, a pretty solid job on is Snatch Game, and she wasn't even the bottom for the Snatch Game. She was in the bottom for the acting, and yeah, I think she deserved it out of the 5 that were there, but nobody did a bad job in that acting challenge, I feel like. It was kind of just a bottom of circumstance by her being the second worst in the challenge. Like, she still really showed up and showed out during the season. I keep saying showed up and showed out, but it just feels right. It feels like the right phrasing for these people. They all showed up and showed the fuck out. And Silky absolutely did that, obviously. She did amazing. Now, going back to a type of track record that we were talking about a lot earlier, but haven't in a while, I feel like this is like the mega ultra deluxe version of that, where we get to see somebody start off on the wrong foot, but then end up as the fucking winner candidate of the season and be one of the most popular queens from their franchise. We have, from Drag Race UK Season 2, Bimini Bon Boou Lash. And I don't know why I said one of, I would say the most popular queen from their franchise. I don't feel like that's a hyperbole. I feel like Bimini is a genuine answer to that question. Bimini we see on episode 1 of Season 2 of Drag Race UK is in the bottom 2. And she's up against Joe Black. Joe Black is one of the big names coming onto this season. And you see them in the bottom 2, and because you don't know that much about them, you're like, oh, Bimini might be going home. Bimini might just be like leaving episode 1, and you're just like, okay, Bimini's leaving. But then Bimini turns out the lip sync and Joe Black goes home, and it feels almost like a bit of an upset because you don't expect Joe Black, just hearing the name Joe Black, to go home episode 1. And then episode 2, while she does a solid job in the challenge, her runway fucks up. She fucks up the runway. And you're just like, Bimini, and it just doesn't sit right. You're just like, damn. But then she's able to, throughout the rest of the season, I mean, she literally wins the Girl Groups Challenge. She wins Snatch Game. She wins 2 other challenges, an acting challenge and a stand-up challenge. And we really get to see, like, the full transformation completion of Bimini Bon Boou Lash, where she literally is in the bottom 2 episode 1, and then throughout the course of the season ends up winning 4 challenges, and is able to excel in every type of challenge. She doesn't win a design challenge, but she fucking kills the top 6 design challenge. Even though she doesn't win, she does a pretty damn good job in it. And throughout that back half of the season, she's in the top, like, every episode. And because the season was split due to COVID, even though the season is still airing like it normally would, it does feel like there are 2 distinct halves to the season. And looking at the first half, you're most likely not thinking that Bimini's going to be the front runner going into the finale. And you might not even be thinking she would make the finale. I mean, you could think she makes the finale based off of the track record. I feel like it's very reasonable. She has, like, I think a bottom 2, 2 safes, and a high. Like, it's a very solid track record. She could make the finale with that starting off. But the way that she ends up getting there and winning 4 challenges along the way, it really just is so good. And also, Bimini was a clear fan favorite going into the finale, where Bimini was just kind of a contestant on that first episode. You're just kind of like, okay. I remember when UK Season 2 was airing and people being like, oh yeah, Bimini's fun, but her not really being like the fan fave. But then we get to the finale where she has 4 wins, she's the fan favorite, everybody wants Bimini to win. She doesn't win the season, but I don't think it undercuts the storyline at all. I think she fucking kills it, and it's just an amazing track record. It's so great. I love her. The redemption in that way reaches highs higher than you would even think that it could reach in a single season of Drag Race. And that's why I put her here at number 2. Last but not least, I feel like this is the first person you think of when you think of Drag Race Redemptions. For me, it was like the first person I thought of when I was like, oh, this would be an interesting video idea to do. I immediately thought of this person, and I feel like it is really just a full, fleshed out situation. From seasons 11, All-Star 6, and Canada vs. the World, we have Raja OHara. Now, I believe the Drag Detective has made a video about the rise of Raja OHara on Drag Race, and you can watch that video if you want. I'll put it in the iCard as well. So I guess I'm going to be slightly more brief with my explanations regarding Raja here. But we see Raja have a similar situation to Silky on season 11, where we see on season 11, Raja has a similar situation to Silky N Ganache, but her character is just dragged through the mud the whole time that she's there. And she doesn't even make it to the end or really excel in any of the challenges. She's safe and she's in the bottom 2 and eliminated. That's really all we get to see from her. And so you come off of her elimination in the season of thinking like, oh, Raja kind of sucks. Like she's like a villain that goes out early. She's like, you get a bad impression of Raja during season 11. But then you get to see her on All-Star 6. She comes back. She's high on episode 1, wins episode 2. And you get to see Raja just excel throughout the season and make it to the finale with the second best track record, technically, after Eureka. But, I mean, I feel like even though Eureka technically has a better track record in that finale, the fact that she was eliminated makes it just automatically worse for me. Where, in my opinion, I feel like Raja has the best situation going into that finale. And she doesn't win the season because somebody else in Kylie Sonique Love also has a redemption arc and kills it throughout the season, and also very rightfully deserves to get the crown. But just looking at this 2 seasons, we see somebody who was only safer in the bottom 2 in their first season and had their character just torn to shreds. We see her come back on All-Star 6, really be one of the voices for the people, one of like the confessional queens, and have so much charisma throughout the season. And we get that combined with this excelling in all of these different kinds of challenges throughout the season. She really fucking kills it. And then we get to see her on Canada vs. the World, where she really excels in every challenge. In a similar situation to Silky, she's only in the bottom 2 for one challenge, which is the stand-up. And it's a very similar situation in the fact that everybody did at least an alright job. She just happened to be the second worst out of the 5 that competed in it. And so we really complete the trilogy of her here, but it gets capped off at the end with her winning Canada vs. the World. And it just feels so complete, where we see Raja OHara on the early episodes of season 11, where she's being painted as this villain and her name is just being dragged, and it just is not a good edit for her at all. And flash forward to like 3 years later on Canada vs. the World, we see Raja excel at the snatch game, which she had missed the mark on a little bit during All-Star 6, and also do good in like the ball again and in the girl groups and these other things, and is able to win the season. And the storyline feels complete. The redemption arc starts off almost as low as it can get and reaches almost as high as it can get. And just that pure start to the bottom, rise to the top as much as she physically could have. Raja OHara was never not going to be the number 1 on this list. So that is going to be it for this video. Do you have other contestants that you feel like should have been in this video? Please comment them down below. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you wish. Leave your thoughts, feelings, and opinions down below. As always, I will leave my Twitter link down below if you want to go follow me on there. I tweet a lot about Big Brother, sometimes Drag Race, you know, reality television as a whole. It's very fun. Please tell me what videos you want to see from me in the comments down below as well. I read all the comments. I will take them into consideration, always. Again, thank you all so much for watching this video, and as always, take care. Bye-bye.